Okay, there we go. Kendall, if you could introduce yourself
Sure.
to the film,
Okay.
and then if you wouldn't mind extending us permission to use clips of this in our
Okay,
documentary.
okay, all right. To the camera?
Yeah.
Okay. My name is Kendall Jackson. I work for the City of Joliet. I'm the planning director for the city. And USF has my permission to tape this segment.
Thank you. Okay, Ashley.
Now, you asked the questions, right?
So you can just
Okay.
look at her, that's fine. Or look.
And then the other students, they just kind of make comments like, yeah, right.
No.
Yeah, that's the yeah, like that really happened.
Although our church is pretty
Yeah,
loud,
oh, that guy's lying.
No, there will be hushed and appreciative silence, except from Ashley.
All right.
Alrighty, so first and foremost, can you tell us a little bit about your job with the City of Joliet
Sure.
and how you came to be with the City of
Okay,
Joliet?
yes. I am the planning director for the city, and that involves a lot of things. I work mostly with the general public. I work with developers. I work with elected officials. I work with residents of the town. And basically my job is to guide development and redevelopment in Joliet. I have 2 planners on staff. We also have a zoning code enforcement officer on staff, as well as some support staff folks. And our job is to administer what's called the zoning ordinance, and that sort of is the guidebook for development in Joliet. It tells you where you can build certain things and you can have certain uses, how big, how small, how far set back from the street, how far set back from the structure next door, and all those types of things. We also are involved heavily in what's called economic development, where we go out and try to attract new businesses to the city. That's a big part of my job. As well as working with state agencies, the federal government, grant projects. One of my big responsibilities is acting as the lead person for our transportation center, which we're building out now. It's about a $50 million project, and we are maybe 3/4 of the way through that project. So we'll have a new train station, we'll have a new bus station, there's new passenger platforms that are in place. So that improvement will be complete probably by 2016, maybe into 2017, and then we'll have what's called a new multimodal transportation center right here in downtown Joliet. So that kind of wraps up what my job entails. I was a student at the University of Illinois at Chicago in their master's program for city planning. And one of my fellow students actually was from Joliet. And that gentleman was a planner for the city. And he made the comment to me one day in school that he was going to come back to Joliet, become the planning director, and someday I would work for him. And so I was like, yeah, I'm not quite sure about that. I'm living and working in Chicago, loved it. Bright lights, big city, didn't know much about Joliet. But we made a point of keeping in contact after we graduated from school. And in one year he called me and told me that he had an opening on the planning staff here in Joliet. Would I be interested? So I told him that I would come and check things out. So I remember driving out from Chicago along I-80 at the time, and the only signs were I-80 West to Iowa, and everything was a cornfield. And I said to myself, where the heck am I going? And so when I arrived in Joliet, he took me around town, and we visited for a while, and the city offered me the job, and I took it. And this was back in 1993. And of course now all those cornfields are developed in housing and in other development that we have going. So there's been a great deal of change since I first started with the city of Joliet. And at that time, I think the city was just starting to come out of a really bad, depressed time. And that was through the 1980s. There was a great deal of offshoring, if you will, and that's basically just manufacturing firms taking jobs elsewhere, out of the country. And that impacted Joliet because we had a lot of manufacturing companies here, particularly steel mills, and the steel industry decided that it was cheaper to make steel in other countries. And so all of those jobs were lost in Joliet. And at one time during the 80s, the city of Joliet had one of the highest unemployment rates in the country. I think it was above 20%. So you can imagine the devastating effect that had on the town, on its residents. And so right before I took the job with Joliet, the state of Illinois actually started to offer riverboat gaming licenses to what they considered depressed river towns. And Joliet applied for the licenses and was able to get 2 gaming facilities here in Joliet, and that was in the early 90s. That, I believe, was the beginning of sort of a resurgence for Joliet, a revitalization. Harrah's Casino started downtown, and the Empress Casino started out off of Route 6, which is now the Hollywood Casino. I think those 2 facilities were an economic shot in the arm for the city of Joliet. There were substantial revenues that were coming into the city from both casinos. And the city was able to rebuild some of its infrastructure, new streets, sidewalks, curb and gutter. There was also a very conscious and determined effort on the part of the city council and the top administrators to really grow Joliet. So we had the benefit of a good location at I-80 and 55, and just acres and acres of available land, mostly to our west, and farmland that a lot of the national home builders were looking to come into the suburban areas of Chicago and build new housing subdivisions. And Joliet was poised to take advantage of that because of the location, because of the available land, and the land was relatively affordable for those builders to buy. We had also a couple of school districts that had pretty good reputations, and the national builders saw that as the perfect storm of good circumstances, good available land that they could get relatively cheaply, good access transportation through the highway system, and good school districts that they could market.